They said I couldn't do it. They looked at me and saw limits, not possibilities. They spoke with certainty about what I'd never become, what I'd never achieve, as if they had the power to write my story. But what they didn't know was that every no they gave me became a silent promise I made to myself. I didn't want to prove them right. I wanted to prove to myself that I am more than their assumptions, more than their doubts, more than their label. I was not born to live according to someone else's definition of possible. They will doubt you, not because they truly know you, but because they only see what their own limited vision allows. Doubt is not a reflection of your capabilities. It's a mirror to their fears. When someone says you can't, they are often projecting their own insecurities, their own failures, and their own disbeliefs. Turning that doubt into your determination is not about ego. It's about reclaiming your voice in a world that tries to silence it before it even speaks. There is something incredibly powerful about quiet determination. It doesn't scream, it doesn't announce itself, but it moves with purpose. When you carry the weight of other people's doubt on your shoulders, you have two choices: either let it bury you or let it build you. The moment you decide to use that weight as resistance to strengthen your own resolve, you begin the process of transformation. You begin to see doubt as fuel, not as a force to stop you. We often spend so much time trying to defend ourselves, to explain why we deserve a chance, why we are worthy. But real growth comes when you stop explaining and start evolving, when you stop seeking permission and start trusting your own journey. Let every dismissal, every laugh behind your back, every closed door become the fire that lights your next step. You don't need to respond to every insult. Your success will speak the language they refuse to understand. There are going to be days when you'll hear their words echo louder than your own thought. Days when doubt feels like a fog that you can't see through. That's when you dig deeper, not into their opinions, but into your own truth. Ask yourself, not who am I in their story, but who am I in mine? Doubt is only loud when your faith in yourself is quiet. So you speak to yourself, you remind yourself of every time you made it through what was supposed to break you. Every time you stood up when falling seemed easier, and every time you tried again with a heart still healing. The people who doubt you often lack the courage to dream for themselves. Don't borrow their fear. Don't rent space in your mind to voices that never believed in possibilities. You were not born to be accepted by those who couldn't accept themselves. You were not born to shrink so they could feel tall. Let their doubt sharpen you. Let it refine you like fire refines gold. You don't become strong by being praised. You become strong by being pushed and still rising. Turning doubt into determination is a quiet process. It happens behind closed doors when no one is clapping, when no one believes, when even you question yourself. But in those silent battles, you find your grit. You learn to trust your footsteps even in the dark. You don't wait for motivation, you move forward through discipline. You don't wait for approval, you create your own definition of victory. And most importantly, you don't allow their doubt to live in your body as truth. When someone tells you that you can't, pause for a moment, not to let their words sink in, but to let your own spirit rise. You're not here to argue, you're here to show up. And every time you show up despite the noise, you are proving something much bigger than them wrong. You are proving to yourself that your will is louder than the world's whisper, that you are not just a reaction to their disbelief. You are a response born of courage, patience, and persistence. You carry within you stories they'll never understand, battles they never saw, pain they never witnessed, and yet here you are still trying, still moving, still dreaming. That is the proof. You don't need permission to become everything they said you couldn't. You just need to remember that doubt is temporary, but your drive can be eternal. The world will always have people who look at you and see limits. Your job is not to change their minds. Your job is to never let them change yours. Scars tell stories that strength alone can't. They remind us of the battles we fought, the pain we endured, and the resilience that carried us through. But too often, we are taught to hide them, to cover up our past, to pretend that the hurt never happened. We are told that scars make us weak, broken, unworthy, but in truth they are symbols of survival. Every scar you carry, whether it's on your skin or buried deep in your heart, is proof that you didn't give up. It's proof that you stayed, that you stood, that you endured what tried to destroy you. The world will often try to define you by your pain. People will see your struggles and assume your limitations. But they don't see the nights you stayed awake, fighting battles in silence. They don't see the tears you wiped away without asking for help. They don't know the strength it takes to smile when everything inside you feels heavy. Let your scars speak, not in shame, but in strength. Let them speak for every time you wanted to give up, but didn't. Let them speak for every chapter you thought was the end, but became your beginning. We live in a society that glorifies perfection and filters out the truth. But real strength doesn't come from the absence of struggle. It comes from surviving it, from rising out of the ashes with pieces of yourself still intact. You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be real. You were meant to feel, to fall, to break, and to rise again. The cracks in your story are where the light enters. The wounds you carry are not signs of weakness. They are signs of a warrior who kept going even when it hurt. You don't need to be ashamed of your past. You don't need to apologize for your pain. The moments that broke you are the same moments that built you. They taught you what strength really means. They showed you the depth of your courage. They revealed to you the kind of heart you have, the kind that keeps beating even when it's bruised. When you embrace your scars, you reclaim your power. You take back the narrative from those who tried to write you off. Sometimes, we become our own harshest critics. We look in the mirror and see everything we wish we could erase. But healing isn't about erasing. It's about accepting. It's about looking at your reflection and seeing the fighter behind the flaws. It's about realizing that your journey is beautiful, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Every time you were knocked down and chose to rise, you became a little more unbreakable. There are people who will judge you, not knowing what it took to stand where you are today. Let them. Their opinions are not your truth. They didn't walk your path. They didn't carry your burdens. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you healed. You don't need to prove your worth to those who only see the surface. The strength you carry is not loud. It's quiet. It's in the way you keep going. It's in the way you show up even when it's hard. Wounds don't make you less worthy of love, of success, of peace. They make you human. They make you relatable. They make your story powerful. You never know who's watching you and gathering courage from the way you live your truth. Your scars might be someone else's reason to believe they can heal too. By hiding them, you hide your light. By embracing them, you give permission for others to do the same. The pain you went through wasn't in vain. It shaped you. It refined you. It prepared you for the strength you carry today. You don't need to wear armor to prove you're strong. You just need to stand in your truth. You just need to accept that your scars are part of your journey, not stains on your identity. They are not signs of failure. They are signs that you lived through moments meant to break you and came out stronger than before. You don't become fearless by avoiding pain. You become fearless by walking through it and still choosing to love, to trust, to try again. Your scars are the reason you connect, the reason you understand, the reason you feel so deeply. They are not your weakness. They are your power. In a world full of noise, it's easy to lose your own voice. Every day, we are surrounded by opinions, expectations, comparisons, and judgments. Everyone seems to have something to say about who you should be, what you should do, how you should look, what success should mean. The pressure to fit in, to please others, to meet standards that were never meant for you, it gets loud. And sometimes, in trying to keep up with the world's volume, we slowly start turning down the volume of our own truth. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must choose. Do I continue living by what others want from me? Or do I finally start living by what I truly need from myself? That moment doesn't come with fanfare. It usually comes in silence, in a quiet room, in a deep breath, in a pause after all the chaos. That's when your inner voice, the one that has been whispering beneath all the noise, starts to rise, and for once you decide to listen. You may have spent years chasing approval, trying to make people proud, trying to prove your worth, trying to fit into spaces that never celebrated your difference. But when you silence the world for a moment, you start to hear something more important. You begin to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You remember the dreams that made your heart race, the things that brought you peace, the goals that felt true not because they were popular, but because they were yours. Your inner voice is not loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It waits. It waits patiently for you to come back to yourself. And when you finally do, you realize how long you've been disconnected. You realize how often you silenced yourself to avoid confrontation. How many times you said yes when your soul screamed no. How many times you settled because the fear of being misunderstood was stronger than the desire to be honest. But honesty with yourself is the beginning of freedom. Listening to your inner voice is not always comfortable. It may ask you to walk away from things that look good but don't feel right. It may guide you toward the unknown, away from the familiar, away from people who liked the version of you that stayed silent. It may challenge your past choices, and it may pull you into a new direction. But the discomfort of growth will always be more meaningful than the comfort of pretending. When you stop living on autopilot and start making conscious choices, everything begins to shift. You stop showing up just to be seen and start showing up because you believe in what you're doing. You stop performing for the world and start living for yourself. And slowly, the approval you once begged for becomes irrelevant. Because your peace, your joy, your truth, those are the things you begin to value more than applause. The world will always have its opinions. Some people will misunderstand you, others will doubt you, and many won't see the journey you're on. But their voices don't have to be louder than your own. You get to decide who you are. You get to decide what matters. You get to decide what your success looks like, what love feels like, what happiness means. That is your power. There will be moments when you're unsure, when your voice trembles, when fear gets louder than faith. That's okay. It doesn't mean your inner voice is gone. It just means you have to get still again. You have to disconnect from the noise, even if just for a little while, and return to yourself. The answers you seek aren't out there. They never were. They've been waiting inside you all along. You are not lost. You are just buried under the weight of other people's expectations. Peel them off. Let go of the roles you never chose. Stop chasing versions of yourself that were shaped by survival and fear. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to listen to yourself and follow what feels right, even if no one else understands it. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with your decisions. You have to carry the consequences. You have to walk your path, so listen closely, not to the world that tells you what you can't do, but to the voice within you that has always known who you are meant to become. Failure is something we're taught to fear from a very young age. It's portrayed as the opposite of success, the evidence that we weren't good enough, fast enough, smart enough, strong enough. But the truth is, failure isn't the end. It's the beginning of something greater than you could ever imagine. It's a doorway to growth, a path to resilience, a lesson in disguise. It's not the moment you fall that defines you. It's the moment you decide to rise again. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has failed, often more than once. But what separates them from the rest is not perfection. It's persistence. It's the refusal to let failure become a full stop. It's understanding that every misstep holds the wisdom you need to take the next step more wisely. It's seeing that failure doesn't take away your value, it reveals your strength. The world may not celebrate your failures, but they will shape you in ways success never could. When you fail, you're faced with a choice. You can allow it to make you smaller, or you can let it make you stronger. It can shut you down, or it can wake you up. It's easy to feel ashamed when things don't go as planned, to question your worth, to wonder if it's even worth trying again. But those are the moments that matter the most, because anyone can keep going when everything's working. But it takes real courage to continue when everything is falling apart. Failure teaches you things that comfort never will. It strips away the ego. It humbles you. It brings you face Face with who you really are, not who you pretend to be when things are easy. It shows you where your heart is. It shows you what you truly want. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't hurt, and that pain, that ache of trying and not getting there, it means you're alive, it means you're in the game, it means you're daring to chase something that matters. The road to success is never straight. It's full of setbacks, rejections, detours, and disappointments. But every failure has something to teach you. Sometimes it teaches you patience. Sometimes it teaches you perseverance. Sometimes it simply teaches you that the dream needs refining, that the destination hasn't changed, but maybe your direction has. You learn not just how to win, but how to withstand, how to stand when standing feels impossible, how to keep your hope alive when your confidence is shattered. Failure also reminds you that you are not in control of everything, but you are in control of how you respond. You can choose to give up, or you can choose to grow up. You can choose to stay broken, or you can choose to build again, this time with stronger hands, wiser eyes, and a deeper sense of purpose. Failing is not falling short. Failing is falling forward, and every time you fall forward, you're still moving ahead. The people who laugh at your failures are often too afraid to try for themselves. Let them laugh. Let them mock. Let them doubt. Because the ones who change their lives, and the lives of others, are the ones who aren't afraid to look foolish while learning. They're the ones who fall, bleed, cry, and still get up. They're the ones who refuse to let failure be the final chapter. Your story is still being written. A single failure does not erase the pages you've already filled with bravery, effort, and intention. If you wait until you're certain you won't fail, you'll never do anything worth doing. Some of the best decisions you'll ever make will come right after your biggest failures, because that's when you see clearly. That's when you stop pretending. That's when you get real. Real with yourself, with your goals, with your life. Failure strips away the illusion of perfection and forces you to build something authentic. You may fail 100 times, but you only need one breakthrough to change everything. And that breakthrough will never come if you let failure shut the door on your potential. Keep knocking, keep trying. Keep falling forward, because one day you'll look back and realize that the moment you thought was the end was actually the beginning of something far more powerful than you ever expected. We grow up surrounded by definitions of success that were never written with our dreams in mind. We're told what a successful life should look like. The job title, the money, the house, the applause. And somewhere along the way, we start chasing those versions, not because they fulfill us, but because they've been praised and proven by others. But real success isn't about ticking boxes. It's not about living up to someone else's idea of making it. It's about defining what fulfillment, meaning, and growth look like for you on your own terms. Redefining success is a deeply personal journey. It begins when you start questioning everything you've been taught to value. It's not an act of rebellion. It's an act of alignment. You stop asking, how do I compare? And start asking, what truly matters to me? That shift doesn't come easily. It comes after achieving things that still leave you empty, after reaching goals that impress others but don't satisfy your soul. It comes when you realize that a loud life isn't necessarily a fulfilled one. You may look around and see others celebrated for paths you never felt drawn to. You may feel behind, less than, or lost. But that's only because you're measuring yourself with a ruler that was never meant for you. You don't need to climb a ladder that leads to a place you don't even want to be. You don't need to prove your worth through titles or trophies. You need to find what makes you feel alive, even if no one else understands it. Especially if no one else understands it, there's courage in choosing a life that reflects your truth, not their trends. There's courage in walking a different path even when it's quieter. Your success might be waking up with peace in your heart. It might be building something slowly, steadily, with integrity. It might be choosing rest over hustle, choosing authenticity over popularity, choosing purpose over profit, and those choices don't always come with applause. Sometimes they come with doubt, criticism, even isolation, but they also come with freedom. When you stop chasing validation, you start embracing your values. You learn to trust yourself again. You stop editing your dreams to make them more acceptable. You stop playing small just to stay comfortable. You take up space in your own life. You show up with presence, with intention, with clarity, and that is success. Not just reaching the destination, but knowing why you're going there. Not just making it to the top, but making sure it's the right mountain for you. The world will always have a standard, but you don't have to meet it. You can create your own. You can define success by the peace you feel when you look in the mirror. By the kindness you show when no one's watching. By the growth you embrace even when it's hard. You can define it by how deeply you love, how freely you live, how honestly you speak. None of that fits neatly into a resume, but all of it matters. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that looks good on paper but feels hollow inside. You don't have to keep up with a race you never wanted to run. You can step back. You can slow down. You can rebuild your definition of success piece by piece, based on what aligns with your spirit, not just your ambition. You can have goals and still be gentle with yourself. You can be driven without being disconnected. You can want more without betraying who you are to get it. Success is not the same for everyone, and that's the beauty of it. For some, it's financial freedom. For others, it's artistic expression. For some, it's raising a family with love. For others, it's creating impact through their voice. None of these are more valid than the other. What makes success powerful is when it's aligned with your truth, when it honors your values, your experiences, your heart. That's when it becomes sustainable. That's when it becomes real. When you stop performing and start living, everything changes. Your energy returns. Your clarity deepens. Your confidence rises. Not because of how others see you, but because of how you begin to see yourself. You are no longer trying to fit in. You are trying to become, and that kind of becoming is the most powerful version of success there is. From a young age, we're taught to seek validation to be liked, accepted, approved. We learn to measure our worth based on how others perceive us. We dress a certain way, speak a certain way, make choices not always because they feel right, but because they feel safe. Safe from judgment, from rejection, from standing out too much. But there comes a point when chasing approval begins to feel exhausting, when every step you take feels like it's not really yours. And that's the moment you realize you're not here to impress, you're here to express. Becoming your own proof means letting go of the need to be constantly validated by the outside world. It means understanding that your worth doesn't depend on how many people clap for you, agree with you, or believe in you. It's about choosing to believe in yourself, even when no one else does, especially when no one else does. Because there will be seasons in life where support is scarce, where encouragement is absent, where you feel like you're walking alone. And in those moments, your inner belief becomes your greatest fuel. When you stop chasing approval, you start standing in your truth. You stop diluting your voice to sound acceptable. You stop shrinking your dreams to make others feel comfortable. You stop waiting for permission to be who you are. There's something unshakable about a person who knows their own value, someone who's not defined by applause, who doesn't break under criticism, who knows that their path is valid even when it's misunderstood. That kind of person becomes unstoppable, not because they're perfect, but because they're grounded. There is power in becoming your own proof, in looking at where you came from, what you've survived, what you've built with your own hands, and saying, "This is enough for me." It's not about arrogance, it's about ownership. It's about not needing to be constantly seen to know that you matter. It's about walking your journey with pride, even if the journey doesn't look like anyone else's. Because your story was never meant to be a copy. It was meant to be a message, and only you can write it with honesty. Being your own proof also means you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop saying, "I'll feel worthy when," or "I'll believe in myself if." You realize that every step you take, even the small ones, count. That every failure, every setback, every attempt, it all adds up. The process becomes your validation. The growth becomes your evidence. You don't need someone else to confirm your potential when you're already living it. There will be times when people doubt you, not because you're not capable, but because your vision challenges their comfort. Your drive reminds them of their hesitation. Your courage makes them confront their fear. Not everyone will understand your path, and they don't have to. Their understanding is not a requirement for your success. The only thing required is that you continue to show up for yourself, over and over again, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when the progress feels invisible. When you rely on external approval, your confidence will rise and fall with other people's opinion. But when you become your own proof, your confidence becomes rooted in something deeper. Experience, resilience, truth. And that kind of confidence can't be taken away. It becomes your foundation, your shield, your compass. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be seen. It just needs to be real. Sometimes the loudest proof you'll ever have is the fact that you didn't give up, that you kept showing up for your dreams when no one else saw the vision, that you believed in yourself in moments where everything around you said not to. You became your own cheerleader, your own motivator, your own reason to keep going. And that kind of self-reliance isn't just admirable, it's necessary. You don't need to perform to prove your power. You don't need to be flawless to be worthy. You don't need to convince anyone of your greatness. The work you've done, the healing you've started, the strength you've found, all of that is enough. Let your life be the evidence. Let your growth speak louder than your explanations. Let your actions be your answer to every doubt ever spoken about you.